Welcome back to K&L Farms. I'm Ken. I hope this video finds you well. And when I started out my channel, I said that if someone, one of my subscribers, got to me through an email and asked me questions about a previous video, I would go back and clarify. And this is the attempt. And what the questions were I actually did a video not too long ago, and I was kind of condemning go bags. That was number one. They said, well, can you clarify that? And number two, they said, well, they've seen on my videos in other cases where I actually have a go bag. Now, remember when I got started out, they weren't called go bags, they were called backpacks. So let's just go with backpacks from this point on. And what I've seen is someone goes and get a backpack like this, and some of the Hollywood homesteaders, they get a backpack like this, and they start telling you, well, you got to get a tactical hat for that. You got to put some night vision in that. You got to put extra ammo in that. You got to put some high-speed communication in that. And none of that does me any good at all. All of that subject, all of that, that's why I was condemning what they're saying as go bags, because none of that tactical stuff even enters into my lifestyle. But let's go back in correcting it a little bit. And as far as backpacks, in my case, we're going to go over seasonal a little bit. So you got a condition for winter, of course, you would put in your backpack warmer clothes. A condition for summer, of course, you wouldn't use an open flame, which that'll come with my food supply that I use. You wouldn't use an open flame right now to heat up your food. And that's why I prefer our MRE over a mountain house or dried food. And I also like MREs greater because they come with salt and pepper, silverware. They have everything in the bag. And I will link down in the description the one that I illustrate and the one that I purchased. But let's go back to that. So if you get off of the tactical backpack, which again, I find no purpose in it, and that's why I was kind of disgusted, because I had seen another homesteader do a tactical bag, and I don't need a tactical bag. What I need to concern myself and my family with is three things. Let's go with water. I need water in my backpack, and let's go with food. Now, I just said seasonal. Now I'm going to give you the one case where it's not seasonal for me. The one that I always have in a vehicle, and that's a first aid bag. First aid bag, I always have in a vehicle. Now remember, I have multiple vehicles, well, outside of the farm vehicles, but multiple vehicles, and this goes with me, and I move it back and forth. I move it from vehicle to vehicle, so if I'm going to go out of town, I put this in a vehicle. The main thing around either a first aid bag or a trauma bag, some education should follow this. Should be, if you're going to pack one, you should have some education around using it. Okay, so that always goes with me, non-seasonal. Okay, and then I go with, okay, in fire season, I'm going to have this with assorted stuff in it. This is my fire backpack. So assorted stuff in it. This will go in a vehicle. So you got first aid, and in fire season you have fire, but normally it's just a standard backpack. This is mine, and I'm going to give you the other part of the three subjects that I always prepare for, and it might be minimalistic, but I still do it. Shelter. So if I'm a normal person on a normal budget and don't feel that tactical even enters into the conversation, I'm going to need a shelter, I'm going to need water, we'll go over water in just a minute, and I'm going to need a food. I like MREs again. Take what you want and what you can afford. I'm not dictating what you buy, but this one I found to be the most reasonable on MREs, and one, they came up for sale, and I'll look before I link them to make sure they're still on sale. I think I bought 3 cases of them. So that's the food that I enjoy. Around water, I have 2 examples of water. Now, I prefer this and this over this backpack actually has a bladder. Now, if you're in this has a bladder, and the reason I don't like a bladder, now I use it periodically, but I don't use it for my primary source. If you're in California or down there in North Carolina and you only had hours to leave, That's why I think there's a need for a backpack with some supplies in a vehicle. And so they jump in their vehicle, they get to wherever they're going, they have a food supply, they have a water supply, fresh potable water supply, especially in North Carolina, and some sort of shelter that they can shelter their family. Okay, so that was another thing, and I prefer these over the bladder because I filled the bladder up, put the bladder in the back of the truck, don't go for, quite a long time. I find the water in the bladder to be, I don't know if you'd say spoiled or soured or gone to seed, but it's not as good of condition. It's got bacteria growing in it, and these I seem to consume faster than the bladder. Now, but remember, in my case, every 3 months I go back and check my systems I have. Either it's excluding of course, the first aid kit, it's always exactly the same. But if I'm in the fire season, I fill these up. My fire season could last up to 3 months, well, because I'm not in California, so, but could last 3 months. But if I'm on a fire, I've got 3 or 4 of these in the backpack, and probably a case, if not a case, of these in the truck. And I've done it many times. In fact, I'll tell you a story here in just a minute out of an old logger. But, and I don't have an example of it for you, but these, there'll be cases, they'll be warm. I don't care. You get thirsty enough, you just, same thing with getting hungry. You get hungry enough, you just start eating. And same thing with water. You just drink it whether it's hot or not. Now, the logger story was, I was on a show one time, went down by the creek, and we didn't have any containers. And we had hard hats on. Well, next thing I know, all the guys, including myself, are dipping the hard hats in the creek and drinking out of the hard hat. So if you get thirsty enough, you'll find if you have a container or this in the backpack, you'll start drinking it. So that was the other case. And after you get done with this, your 3 main subject matters, food, water, and shelter, then you can get into, now this is another thing that I find that that can be misleading, I think. You got a backpack, small enough that you don't take up all your trucks. You got your 3 primary things in this backpack, and then people start loading this up. Now, it might be necessary. Flashlights, extra clothes, extra hats, that type of sunglasses. Before you know it, this thing is too heavy to commute anywhere. You get too much. But a couple things, these are, I guess, not pro tips, but bonuses, is especially that fire in California, it would have been nice to have a hood lamp on, now 1 if not more. And the other thing I carry, and these are fairly cheap, are glow sticks. Then this is in my fire pack too. Most of my equipment will have a glow stick and a flashlight in it. Just be prepared that you don't want to start, buying everything you can on sale at Costco or Walmart or wherever you shop, and then find out that once the disaster happens, you can't move around because you've gotten too heavy. Now, there's some fire starter in there, some toilet paper, which would come in handy, but that's kind of what I put in my backpack. Bladder, and see, there's no ammo in here at all. There's probably a compass in here and a GPS in here, but I don't know that. It may be in a different pack. But anyway, that was the correction of that statements I made on that previous video. Oh, the other thing you might think about is I carry a whistle on mine in case I get hurt.